If Tom Homan were to come to try to arrest us, I can say, first of all, that he can try. I can also tell you that I will stand in the way of Tom Homan going after people who don't deserve to be frightened in their communities, who don't deserve to be threatened, terrorized. I would rather that he came and arrested me than do that to the people of my state.
I would rather he came and arrested me than do that to the people of our state. Now, after that hearing, it's safe to say I had lots of questions for Governor Pritzker. Here's our conversation.
While you were testifying, Senator Alex Padilla was forcibly removed, pushed to the ground, handcuffed, simply for entering, escorted, I would note, into a room where the Secretary of Homeland Security was doing a press conference because he wanted to ask questions on behalf of his constituents. I'm sure you saw that during a break or when you left the hearing. What was your initial response to that?
Honestly, a bit shocked and dismayed, but I have to say we have been steadily moving toward this kind of authoritarianism. I've called it out, as you know, many, many times. But think about just everything that's happened, the militarization of the effort to go after undocumented people. Sometimes people, most times, in fact, people who've been in our communities for 10, 20, 30 years raising families, to go after them, holding down jobs, following the law, paying taxes. And these are people that are having their doors broken down and taken away. This authoritarianism now has reached the United States Senate, and a United States senator who simply wanted an answer to a question from the Department of Homeland Security secretary, and they were unwilling to answer questions and indeed pushed him back, threw him down, and handcuffed him.
It is one of the things he noted is that it's not about him. You've said things like this many times. It's about the people he's representing and what they're experiencing. And almost as disturbing as what we saw happen to Senator Padilla is what Kristi Noem said before this happened, which is she said she was liberating the city of L.A. from socialist and burdensome leadership. That is emblematic of what they are, how they see their roles. And as you know, it's not just L.A. They have made clear they're coming to Chicago. They're coming to Washington, D.C. They're coming to New York City. What do you make of that and their perspective and their approach to this?
Well, note where they're going, right? These are the states that he didn't win. These are states where he knows he has people pushing back, governors like Kathy Hochul in New York, like me in Illinois. And to be honest, you can see him targeting people. And it's individuals, it's governors, but it's also people, groups of people, right? It's immigrants. And I just want to remind you that, when I think back in the early days of the Nazis taking over in Germany, that what they were doing was dehumanizing people by saying about people who were citizens of that country at the time. This was a democracy, a constitutional republic. They were saying, oh, they're immigrants. Why? Because they're just different than the majority of the population. But these are people who had lived there for generations. They were German citizens. Here we're talking about Americans who've lived here for many, many years. And we're also talking about taking away, sometimes they're ripping people away who are U.S. citizens, taking them off the streets and disappearing them. And we've seen this over and over again, where they're now talking about taking people to Guantanamo. They've taken them to El Salvador, Libya, we've heard now. This is the kind of thing that the Trump administration is over and over again. They're evidencing what they intend to be, which is truly an authoritarian regime.
No question about that. This is all, it's normalizing all of this, wanting to normalize it. I know you've thought about this. You've been very vocal about this long before many have. I mean, it seems like it's possible that we could see intensified raids, ICE raids in Chicago. There have been some, but they could intensify. There could be largely peaceful protests in response, which we've seen across the country, including in Chicago. Donald Trump could deploy the National Guard, send them to Illinois without letting you know first, without asking if you need them, could send Marines. Your laws are different than California. I think it's important to note. But what do you do in that scenario? What are you preparing to do?
First, they've called out literally the military, the U.S. military, to go on U.S. soil and go after U.S. residents. That hasn't happened. I mean, maybe it happened in the 60s. In the early 70s, it happened once or twice. But it's hyper unusual. And what is he doing? He's taking a peaceful protest that was frankly dying down in Los Angeles and turning it into, well, he's igniting flames that are causing so much trouble. If he does that in the state of Illinois, here's what I can say. It's illegal. I do not believe that the president has the ability to call up the National Guard on the people of Illinois. Second, every time I have been asked by local law enforcement when they need help, we have called out the National Guard. In L.A., the local police department did not ask for help. They had it under control. But over the top came these federal troops. In Illinois, what we do is, again, listen to local law enforcement, and then we take action if they need more help from state police, and then National Guard if they do. But having the President of the United States call out troops on Americans, that's just... it's unfathomable, and it fits with this narrative that I'm telling you is happening, which is they really believe in authoritarianism. It is a cult. It is a cult around Donald Trump, and that is what leads to something like a dictatorship, and I'm very afraid for our country.
I think we all are, and you've been calling it out for some time. We watched the entire hearing that you lived through and spoke through, and one of the moments that stuck out to me, one of them, was when a Republican Congressman, Gary Palmer, suggested the panel of Democratic governors should face criminal charges. I mean, this week, obviously, Trump mused aloud about arresting a sitting governor. I just played the clip of you saying they can try, which I love that response. Is that something that you and other governors are preparing for? Is that a reality of what we may be facing right now in this country?
I think the American public is seeing what this Trump administration is doing, and that's why you're seeing people go out and protest, and they're peacefully protesting when they're left to themselves. Right? These are peaceful protesters who go out in Chicago. There probably will be one on Saturday, as there is, I think, all across the country. Peaceful protesting. Now, anybody who's going to commit violence, they should be held accountable, whoever it is. But I can tell you that peaceful protesting is, frankly, something we should be proud of. I mean, this is how we got civil rights changes in this country. This is how we've ended up with LGBTQ rights. This is how we've stood up for immigrants. And that's why I think it's so important for people to speak up and speak out. I'm not afraid. I am not afraid of Donald Trump. I'm not afraid of Tom Homan. I will stand up for the people of Illinois. And frankly, I think so many people standing up for the people of the United States. If we just get people out to speak their mind, and especially in Republican districts, I think those congressmen that were on that panel that I was in will see that their jobs are on the line. And the people in their districts do not appreciate what they are trying to do to this country. They've got Trump submission syndrome, these Republicans, and they have got to get over it and actually do their jobs.
Governor J.B. Pritzker, I know you've had a long day. I always appreciate talking with you. You're always direct. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.